It's Wednesday evening, the 6th of October. This is the 40th edition of the Tribune. John McAtee here, along with Declan Kerr and Eamon. You're both welcome, given the fact that you're here all day. But it seems nice to see that. This week we're all excited by the Dunkettle interchange in Cork and the new National Development Plan, and there's going to be another phase of that being done. And most of the National Development Plan, I suppose, is a wish list, really. You'd be more familiar with a lot of that, Declan, than me now that you're covering politics a fair bit. It'd be very hard.
Wishful would be a kind of an understatement, I think.
Yeah.
You're going very light there.
I mean, the original plan was towards 2040, rebranding Ireland 2040. Apparently, according to Leo Varadkar, about 99.973% of that plan has now been achieved. Now, he might be the only one in Ireland that's aware of that, so it's a closely guarded secret, because he's talking about Castle Baldwin and all that, and all that road works around Sligo and Mayo, given that that was been talked about 25 years ago. So he's now claiming that was done on the rebranding Ireland. So it's a very clever ploy. You can throw out as much stuff as you can. Nobody's going to pay one blind bit of attention to it, because the reality is, who trusts the government to deliver on anything very much these days? Yeah. And at the end of the scale, if something's done, they can claim it under the current plan rather than one that was devised 10, 12, 15 years ago. It's the same with the Dunkettle bypass that Michael Martin made a song and dance about when he was in opposition. It's out in East Cork. It originally began as part of the Glanmire bypass, and everything's been channeled into the southeast, into Cork, that whole southern region, and you can see why. A lot of Dáils. There's 5 constituencies in Cork, numbers of others right across the southeast and indeed into the southwest, where Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would be fighting to hold on to seats down there.
Well,
so
it was interesting that Eamon Ryan was kind of pouring some cold water on some of it nearly right away.
Well, understandably, Eamon Ryan wouldn't have a large footprint outside of the major centres.
The urban areas.
The big urban areas, yeah.
Ironically, for the Green Party.
Interesting, yeah.
But at the same time, all of the promises made by the Green Party are shelved in the National Development Plan. It's on the basis that a lot of this may not even happen. But as Michael Martin then said last night, because there's a bit of a rough ride for the Fianna Fáil party in the coming days, because there's one of their TDs, in fact he's the youngest in the Dáil, James O'Connor. This Wednesday evening it'll probably come to a head. Does he stay or does he go? Because there's a 57 million project in his East Cork area that's not even included on a list that might be done. Michael Martin has said the fact that it's not on the list doesn't mean to say that it won't be done. So it's a bit like going into Lidl there. You see something on special offer, you haven't it in your shopping basket, you mightn't even have the price of it, but you'll probably pick it up anyway.
Well, could you say that it's not really a national development plan, it's nearly a Cork development plan?
Big time, yeah. Like, what are we getting in Donegal? Well, we're getting a couple of things. There's an extension, big money for the extension around the N56 area, around Donegal town, Mount Charles. And people like Councillor Ian McGrory and those that's opposed to the 3-town sewage treatment plant at the Brown Eye will hardly be jumping with joy, because that is included, it's mentioned actually, but there's no money mentioned because it's not costed yet. So a lot of the stuff that's on the plan, well, they haven't bothered costing it, because like you can guess at 165 million, so God knows will it be done in 20 years, some of it.
But really there's very little in it for Donegal, really.
What else is new? Then we're losing our 12.5% corporate rate tax. It's going to be gone by 2023. That's going to cost the Exchequer at least 2 to 3 billion a year.
Yeah.
And it probably won't be the end. I mean, Charlie McGrory brought in the corporate rate tax from 32% down to 12.5% in 1999. So it probably is there over 20 years. It has worked wonders for the country. It has brought in billions upon billions in foreign direct investment. Now, whether this will impact on that or not, probably not to that great extent, because those major multinationals they're here too long. They have so much invested in Ireland. It would take an awful lot to make them move.
plus Brexit will mean that they will not be looking to relocate into the UK or anywhere
No.
like that. So Ireland will be a good enough base for them still, I would imagine.
Well, given that lorry drivers don't want to relocate back to the UK, it doesn't say much for their future.
And,
But no,
and Pascal Donegal, did he get any concessions really?
not at all. No, it's just fanciful words, you know. It's a bit like another topic that we'll be going on to later on, and that's to do with the whole Mecca and this Friday's protest, and the fact that after being up there last June with hopes held high afterwards, you know, it was all a false dawn. But we'll come to that later on. In the meantime, we're going to go to a more serious issue, Eamon, and that is a story that you're doing on the road hazard on the outskirts of Ramelton.
So a story I went over to Remelton yesterday to work on, where I met the Gorney family, Christian Gorney and his 3 children. They were highlighting a very important issue in Remelton, and when you get to when I met them at the bridge end, you get a clear indication of why. Because those 3 children, the Gorney children, have to, like many other school children, and indeed any other pedestrians in that area, the bridge end, walking into Remelton, for them going to school, it's a very, very fast, dangerous stretch of road. There's no two ways about that. Like, there's a high volume of traffic there, just as you're coming along, as you're heading into the town, from a big long approach road on the way in, down to kind of a little brew just beyond that, where traffic coming the other way comes around very quick. So I think they're rightly highlighting that Remelton really does need to kind of look at its pedestrian safety, because I know that there's no real...
when you say that Ramelton needs to look at it, I mean, obviously it's Donegal County Council that has to look at that.
Of course, and they have raised that with the council by all accounts, and they've raised it with local councillors, but they're still waiting for anything meaningful to be done on that at all, and it's...
like, in other words, absolutely nothing has been done.
Nothing at all. Like, there's not a single thing, and the issue being is that not only is the road a fast, dangerous road, there's very little footpath within sections of it. They have to cross the road. They have to cross even 3 lanes of a road, actually, where it widens out there at Carlin, the Court Estate, and areas like that. And I suppose, like, they're trying to encourage their children to walk to school, to bike to school. You know, they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, but now you see, they have no choice there, because
within the boundary, you see.
they're within the boundary. Like, they're not entitled.
So school buses are not an
They're
option.
not entitled to transport here because
No, but they're there, and like I was meeting them yesterday with their Visi vests on, their high visibility hats and wee torches on them and all that. They're doing all the right things, but you can understand how Christian and his wife Sophia are both very concerned with that there, and there's other children out there too. But even given the amount of people that have taken to walking and all that during the lockdown, that habit has been kept up by a lot of people.
But you know, the reality about all this here, after all these years, I can't imagine or believe that there are no road camming measures
meaningful
put in place.
road
There's
camming.
nothing there at all. Absolutely nothing.
It has been raised before, but not, you know, when there were supposed to be safety audit reports done on it, but nobody heard no more word about it.
Yeah, well, I know that family now are hoping to maybe get enlist a wee bit of support to put a bit of public pressure on to get the council to acknowledge that, because I mean, even when I went over to meet them yesterday just to snap a little photograph, I pulled in for a couple of minutes, and you know, you have to be on your wits even pulling the car out. Never mind, and a bunch of kids, little young children like that crossing the road, you'd be hard to be in your mouth.
That's
for them.
unbelievable. And like, we have the same problem here in Mufford out at the junction there at the old vocational school. There's a lot of work has been going on there, and a lot of research to try and reduce the number of accidents. It's all basically is due to high speed driving.
Coming into the town too fast.
I mean, probably those driving on that road at Ramelton, they're breaking, in the majority of cases, I'm just using a wide brush here, because some people do observe the road traffic laws. But in the main, the speed of traffic on that road is quite shocking. But likewise, out of the junction just outside the town here, just going towards Cargarten, that is a lethal junction. It's not because of its layout or its design. It has been quite sloppy and quite messy. But vehicles are really flying there. They're flying down the hill, and that's where most of the collisions are happening.
It needs to be calmed in them areas, like in Remelton too, because they're coming in off a big
But
straight wide road.
we haven't really done much to do about that.
No, well,
But
something to keep an eye on that
we'll
one.
see how that goes. Now, Declan, we're marking the 20 years of rehab in Letterkenny.
That's
Talk
right.
to us about that.
That's right, yeah. On the 1st of October 2001, 20 years ago, the doors opened on the medical rehab unit on the campus there at St Connell's Hospital. It was a pioneering service, and that's seen a lot of people in recovery from strokes and other conditions, and the staff there, great staff, and some of them there from the very start, and we see some of them there today now in the paper after 20 years. Dr. Ken Mulpeter, of course, there at the start as well, and others, and the number of patients and families that have benefited from that service has been enormous.
Ken deserves special mention because he's one of the pioneering figures to get that up and running,
Yeah.
And so many people have been treated there quite successfully with very, very major life-threatening injury.
Yeah, there's a great multidisciplinary team there, from nurses to physiotherapists to OTs, just the whole general, and it's in a great setting there, lovely, nice and quiet. That has been one of the great things about it, that people can go in and out of there nice and quietly, families, and visit, and there's a great homely atmosphere about it. And,
it is one of the big success stories for the HSE in this part of Donegal, and long may it continue.
Yeah,
and I'm sure, like literally every other service, they could do with more staff and more facilities.
Yeah, so they marked it last Friday with a little party in the unit there, and we see some of the staff that start, the likes of Lee McElhenney and Deborah White, Nora O'Donnell, Barbara Lapsley, Linda Kennedy were some of the ones that were there from the very start and are still there.
That's great.
Well, that's something well worth reading. And so is this here, because this is a letter from one of our favourite writers called James Woods from Gartahurk. Radio na Gaelta is obvious his favourite radio programme. And this is about Radio na Gaelta and Mary Aggie's hole in the wall. And before you jump to conclusions on one that is the rat hole or where's this heading for, apparently the Barskirche programme with Michelle McGrory, and James has produced this lovely picture of her, and also the singer Diane Cannon. They were in the studio discussing things about with the country opening up again and hotel offers and all this kind of stuff. And their guest speaker, and that was Diane Cannon, they were talking about beauty salons, hairdressers, and coming into the winter and stuff like that. And then Botox was mentioned. And then this personality called Mary Aggie, she's probably fairly local down there. I haven't met her, but I'd love to. She came on to discuss banking difficulties, and the bank manager phoned her up and was urging her to avail of a plastic card to use in the hole in the wall. She could use it for deposits, interest, lodgements, withdrawals, balance, and such like, he told her. So obviously she's into the world of maybe high finance, but I would have reservations. Anyway, she seemed quite confused, and she said to the bank manager, if you have the interest, you can leave a deposit in my hole in the wall every week if you can. So this led to queries by James about who is this Aggie, what is her sexual, he doesn't know whether she's male or female or whether it's an impersonator, but I'm sure with Michelle McGrory and Radio na Gaelta that everything would be way above board. They wouldn't be visiting somebody honest that doesn't actually exist. It's great fun, it's great crack, and James has put his own particular spin on it, needless to say. And he's just saying that we shouldn't worry about these pufferish lookalikes. This is about Botox, obviously. I don't think James has had Botox, but he said that we shouldn't worry about these pufferish lookalikes who would have the cheek to ridicule those who accepted medical advice and got the vaccination to stay off COVID-19. So that's straying a fair bit off course there, but fair play to you, James, for giving us a bit of a laugh. From that then we're moving on to council meeting resumed again this morning. Take us through that, Declan, if you can.
Yeah, well, there's reconvened meetings and there's reconvened meetings. This is the reconvened meeting of the July Council, and it started this morning, but it ran into difficulties fairly early on. It's all to do with the MICA and questions in relation to defective blocks and the sale of houses to the council and all that sort of stuff. And Councillor Frank McGrory was raising issues in relation to it, and at a stage then he was asked to sit down by the Cathaoirleach, Jack Murray, and when that didn't happen, Councillor Murray decided to adjourn the meeting and to resume it online in the afternoon. So
Frank has a freedom of information request in about the council's purchase of 5 houses in Buncrana with MICA. he wanted that discussed. He has wanted that discussed. He wants it raised all the time. We're talking about it here now, but the protocols that are probably and the legalistic issues in relation to that being discussed. Jack Murray, as the Cahilia, they adjourned the meeting. It was a public meeting in the Oral Leisure Centre. It reconvened then again in the afternoon.
It was ongoing there late in the afternoon there, yeah.
And there was more protests and more controversy then because Councillor Michael McGill expressed his total disgust before he signed off. Councillor Michael McBride also made the observation that a democratically elected member should not be asked to leave. So the council meetings are not proceeding with any great clarity or with any great speed, and they don't like to in the future. They don't look like that doesn't look like happening.
There's going to be a lot of issues in the coming months with council meetings. We have that July meeting that was adjourned and reconvened today. We also have the September meeting which was adjourned and has to be reconvened at a later date as well. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of.
Where does Frank McBrady and councillors like him who want to raise these issues? They want answers, in the best interest of the public. And after all these long months, the answers aren't available, or the matter can't be discussed, because the council is awaiting documentation that they don't have to hand. So
these files, like the file on the Buncrana houses, he's not satisfied with the information that he's got so far. So he was seeking to have the full file produced to him. He says he's entitled to that as an elected member, but obviously there's issues that the council say that can't be done at this stage.
Yeah, I suppose there's not much more we can say about that there, because Frank McBrady is not going to let this thing go, because he is carrying out a very detailed investigation of Micah on estates across Donegal, especially with social housing and all this kind of thing. And he's not going to give up on that. I mean, Frank McBrady will just contend that he's elected to represent the views of the people and the concerns that they express, and he feels that the council chamber is the place for that. So to try and reconcile that with what the council position is a very fine balancing act. It would take a lot of finesse, and Frank just doesn't do finesse all that easily. But let's follow that later on. Now, Eamon, we're going to, not you Eamon particularly, but all of us, tractor runs are a big thing at the moment. These charity tractor runs.
Big weekend for it last weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
The tractors are getting out nearly for the first time.
It was a nice sight. I was going up through the gap in Termon, and the amount of tractors that I met coming down the road to go to the memorial run for Michael McGinley was amazing, and plenty of them on the back of flatbeds of lorries and all this stuff. And young fellas, 18, 19, 20, his friends, I would imagine, coming down, and there was a big gathering, way over 100 of them there.
But they're colourful, and it's nice to see young people engaged in that, because it's almost a fashion statement for them to be seen driving a tractor, whereas 10 years ago, if they were sitting near a tractor, it just wouldn't look great.
We had a couple of them in Kilmacrennan in the recent weeks as well, which went down very well and very popular. And
I think there was one in Dunfanaghy
as well. Causes as well.
Good causes, certainly. But I know they're keen to get back, and it's nice to see things to get back.
Yeah, it's showing some signs of community participation out and about, as we finally begin to lose the restrictions and the grip that COVID has held it in. The whole country's been held within that grip for the last 18 months, and perhaps now at long last, as we look forward to Halloween and beyond, to all of the restrictions being virtually removed on the 22nd, we should move on to that. But we're moving on now to talk a little bit about the Micah protest in Dublin, the Garden of Remembrance, 12 o'clock on Friday. The whole county and the whole country is asked to be there. A huge effort has gone into this. And, they were there on the 15th of June. Big day, height of summer. The sun shone on their hopes and their ambitions, especially when Darragh O'Brien was going to sort everything out as he is capable of doing. But at this point, very little has happened, and yet at the same time, a lot has happened in that the expert panel report has poured a lot of cold water on the hopes, the ambitions and the aspirations of the homeowners, especially those who face a full demolish and rebuild. That is not going to be included if the expert panel recommendations are to be upheld. Where do we go with that?
Yeah, it's there's for the people that are affected, they really feel that they can't wait much longer in terms of this 100 redress. We're heading into the winter now. and they're talking about, I mean, it was the end of September now, they're talking now, it could be the end of October, it could be, in terms of a decision. The people are going to Dublin on Friday, they're looking for action immediately, and there's nothing short of 100% redress for houses that needs to be demolished.
Are we getting enough interaction and commitment from our local TDs?
That's a good question. We probably haven't seen enough,
because the profile of their campaign hasn't diminished since the summer.
Oh, it is more energised now, because
exactly
it's also much better informed. And there are very solid people behind that campaign.
Yeah.
Just particularly the man that I talk to a lot is Michael Doherty, the PRO. And they have built up a wealth of information and knowledge. They also now have seen it firsthand how the civil service operates in Dublin at very slow speed. They wouldn't have been a bit surprised by those findings at all, because that, I suppose, is a buffer for the politicians. But I can't see under any circumstances how that series of recommendations can be accepted, because at this point numbers of houses are already demolished and are under reconstruction with new foundations. They effectively are excluded from the recommendations if they're to go through. That can't work. I mean, the expert panel has recommended remedial works only, not demolish and rebuild. Now, the purpose and intent of that will probably unfold later on, but it's to sort of
keep
reduce.
The bills down?
It's to, yeah, absolutely true, to keep the bills down. So if you have a house that's rotten to the core with mica in the foundations, what are you supposed to do? Walk away from it? Let it tumble? I mean, people at this point still hope to be in their homes for Christmas, but can't guarantee it depending on the weather. They bought caravans. So, our final word on it, get to Dublin if you can on Friday. It'll be one of the most important journeys you've ever taken.
The feet on the street is very apt.
Feet on the street is our heading in the paper today in support of them. And we'll talk about it again next week. Let's hope there's thousands and thousands of people there. We'll talk to you then.